Okay, let's get started. I'm Kerri Callais, Councilwoman at Large for St. Bernard Parish, and I am here to discuss the LANERR project that is a candidacy project for Louisiana, and I have some guests with me if y'all want to introduce yourselves.
Sure. My name is Kristi Trail. I'm the Executive Director of the Pontchartrain Conservancy.
And I'm McInnis, St. Bernard Parish President. Glad to be here today.
Okay, I'm going to let you start us off and see if you can give us some background about where we're at and what started this and just the project in general.
Sure. So this is a proposed project, and it's for the state of Louisiana. It actually started in 2019 when Governor John Bel Edwards sent a letter to NOAA, up to the federal government, requesting a National Estuarine Research Reserve to be in the state of Louisiana. And that is actually a requirement that the governor has to make a request to the federal government for the feds to come in and evaluate if there would be a suitable location for this National Estuarine Research Reserve in our state. So that kicked off in 2019. Once that letter was sent, NOAA said, okay, state of Louisiana, now tell us where you want this site, but you have to follow these rules in terms of how to pick the site. That process has been led by Sea Grant, which is the local NOAA entity here in the state. And NOAA began drawing up maps and looking at the entire coastline and saying, where would be a suitable location? And let's ask a variety of experts across the whole state what they think. And so they drew up locations from the western edge of the state over towards Lake Charles, all the way to the eastern end of the state. And started off with 6 possible locations. Going through this team of, I want to say NOAA had over 150 different experts on their panels to evaluate which of those 6 to choose. And those experts narrowed it down to 3 potential sites. So that's where we're at today in June of 2021, 18 months later. From the letter to NOAA from the governor to today, where we're working on 3 potential sites, and eventually will be narrowed down to 1 potential site by the end of this year. I am leading the team for a proposal effort to get this National Estuarine Research Reserve in the Ponchartrain Basin. There is similarly a team for the Barataria Basin as well as for one for the Atchafalaya Basin. So the 3 teams are almost in a sort of competition, if you will, applying to Sea Grant and all raising our hands saying, pick me, so that we can try to determine which of these, one of these basins will be chosen on behalf of the state, presented to NOAA as the proposed national estuary site.
Right. And of course, all of us in this room are partial to the Pontchartrain Basin being the choice for that. But it's interesting that, from what I understand, Louisiana is the only coastal state that doesn't have a LANERR reserve. So it's very important, I think, that one comes here. I mean, we have some of the most diverse estuaries in the country. So it certainly is fitting, and I of course agree that the Pontchartrain Basin would be a prime site for that to happen. President McInnis, I know you have been part of this process to try to push for St. Bernard, the Pontchartrain Basin, to have this site. Can you give us a little insight on why you think that this would be a great site for this reserve?
Southeastern Louisiana is, like you touched on, Kerri, is one of the most beautiful, complicated, historical areas when you talk about coastal communities in the world, in my opinion. I want to thank both of you guys, for all of y'all, for what you guys do and the passion that y'all have, and that brings to the table for somebody like me at 30,000 feet, sitting on the CPRA board, dealing with Sea Grant, and watching all of this happen. And at least we're in the top 3, Kristi, and that's a great thing. For us, it's an uphill battle all the time for some reason to get things done. It just seems so obvious for us with the history of the Mr. Go, the history of the oil industry over the years and what that has done in positive ways and in negative ways to our community. So this research initiative for the state of Louisiana is so important, no matter where it goes. You know, it can be in Barataria, it can be in Atchafalaya, or it could be in the Ponchartrain Basin. We're going to be able to utilize this research center to do so many good things and positive things for our coast here in Louisiana. So I'm excited for that. And obviously we are in the batter's box trying to hit a home run and bring it here to Southeast Louisiana. So anything that we can do and provide resources here in St. Bernard Parish to Kristi and her team to make this happen, we're all in, and we're looking forward to going through this process and looking forward to ultimately this research center being put in Louisiana. Because once this is selected, I'm sure Kristi's going to be on board in selling this, because it still has to happen, right, Kristi? The sell needs to still happen to NERR after we select this to make it happen.
That is correct. So at the end of this year, at the end of 2021, from what I understand in the process, the state will present to NOAA the proposal for a site. So again, we're hoping it's the Pontchartrain site.
Sure.
They will present that as a proposal. And then NOAA does take some time to review all of that and ensure it meets all of their guidelines, which are pretty extensive. You know, they have a several hundred-page document of guidelines. So that's about a 2-year process for the feds to review the state's proposal. So there's no guarantee that whatever the state submits to the feds, that it will be the chosen site.
Can you tell us a little bit about what this means, like what actually happens on the site, or what kind of site exactly they're looking for? Is there a facility? Is it just open land? What exactly does this mean for the site that is chosen?
Well, I think as President McInnis so eloquently said, it really shines a light on the value of the beautiful coastline that we have in South Louisiana more than anything. I think it gets us some great national attention. And also, as you mentioned, there are 28 of these around the United States. This program's been around for over 30 years. But interestingly, Louisiana has never had one, and nobody really understands why. So, you know, we look at the other NERRs, if you will, National Estuarine Research Reserves around the country that exist today. And they do. They have a physical site where people can go visit and learn about the estuary and the value of the estuary. And ultimately, that's what NOAA wants to see. They want to see people out in the estuary enjoying the beauty of it. Additionally, NOAA does send in dollars for research to occur, and they like to really partner with local universities to complete that research. So gathering data on the changes in the estuary, the changes in salinity, the changes in temperature, the effects of hurricanes, so looking at all that different research, NOAA likes to see that. And what's changing for the better, what's changing for the worse, and again, getting that information out into the public. So some of the national estuary sites that exist today have 2 or 3 physical sites spread across the entire estuary. Some of them just have one. There's a site in Hawaii that is just a small 1,500 acres. There's a site in Alaska that's 300,000 acres. So it could be any particular size, and that's where the burden really comes onto us as part of these proposal teams to determine what's the proper size of our proposed site, how many physical locations should we have, because again, NOAA wants to get people out there. So just envision if we could build this beautiful facility with a boardwalk and educational signage, and people want to go there. It's a destination that people are traveling to go visit and see all the bounty that we have here. Come see alligators, come see bald eagles, get out there and go fishing, learn about the, cypress trees that we have in our swamps. That's what it could really bring to this area.
So tell us a little bit about the Pontchartrain Basin, what area that includes, and is there a particular site that y'all are looking at in the basin right now, or are y'all just selling the basin as a whole for a site to come here, or have y'all pinpointed anything in particular in the basin?
So I'm glad you asked that question, because a lot of times we talk about the Pontchartrain Basin and immediately your thoughts go to Lake Pontchartrain itself. But when we talk about the Pontchartrain Basin, it covers the entire watershed of Lake Pontchartrain. That actually goes all the way up to East Louisiana Parish. So that, the basin is a huge 10,000 square mile area. For this particular program for the National Estuarine Research Reserve, we did try to put some boundaries around the actual estuary itself, in the coastal zone, if you will. So incorporating Lake Maurepas, a lot of the wetlands that surround Lake Maurepas, including Lake Pontchartrain, all the way out to the Chandelier Islands. So it's this kind of oblong shape from the western edge of the estuary all the way out to the eastern edge of the estuary to Chandelier Islands. And your other question is, have we selected a physical location to put this, outreach center? We haven't done that yet. As we go through this process that's prescribed by NOAA, at some point in time, they will direct us to choose a site or sites, but we're just not there yet in the process. I would love to see 10 of them all around the site, again, from Lake Maurepas to the Chandelier Islands, but at some point we'll get some guidelines to direct us on how to choose that, and we haven't gotten there yet.
President McInnis, obviously St. Bernard has some interesting features that maybe other places across the state do not, and places where the ecosystem and estuary has changed over our lifetime, but even going back before that, definitely. And it's continuing to change, and some of those are man-made, some of those are just nature, but obviously you believe that St. Bernard would be a great place to have something like this, given that diversity of wildlife and estuary and the changes that have occurred with the Mr. Go and different features like that. Can you tell us a little bit about why you think those features would make St. Bernard a good place for this reserve?
Well, we're already doing it, right? I mean, the empirical data that we have from the generational fishermen in St. Bernard Parish and in Southeast Louisiana in general, they already done the research, and they'll tell you they know already, right, what's going on and what's going to happen and how to fix it. So, every day, the Ponchartrain Basin has tourists that show up, and we're talking thousands of tourists in a month's time that our entrepreneurs and our people who lived here all of their life, it's their heritage, it's who they are, they're already doing the research and selling it to people. So we already know how to do that, right, here in Southeast Louisiana. St. Bernard Parish is now getting into that tourist aspect from the go see an alligator, go see the marsh. The other day I was driving around some of our facilities for St. Bernard Parish government, and at the observatory at the end of Jean Lafitte, they had 3 classes out there and they were doing research right there in that little area. It was beautiful. It was a summer camp type thing. So it's already happening, and we know how to do this, right? So everything that's happened over the last 70, 80, 100 years here in St. Bernard Parish, you can see the effects of natural environmental impacts, oil industry impacts, digging a channel and connecting it to the Gulf and bringing it to the city for economic reasons, what impacts that has had. And people from around the world can learn all of that in this one place right here, right? So we're on board in St. Bernard Parish, Kerri, and you know that, and working with Kristi and her group to get it here in Southeast Louisiana. But I'll say it again. If we get chosen in a Pontchartrain Basin and St. Bernard's not the pinpointed area, we're still on board and we still want it in our basin. Just like if they choose one of the other basins, we're going to be on board fighting with, I say fighting, but working with NOAA to make that happen. So the things that we do, we already, Kerri, and you know this, the charter fishing industry, how many people we bring in on a daily basis, and you see it on social media and what these people learn, and they keep coming back, right? Now they want to catch fish, but it's the beauty of where we're at, and number one, that's why we work so hard to save it. And all of these organizations don't agree on how to do that on everything, but I can tell you we're all pulling in one direction for the NERR's facility.
Sure. I mean, it seems like, we're kind of in the center of it, so we love and appreciate what we have here. But I'm always surprised at the people, especially, having a tourist community like New Orleans right next door, the millions of people that come into the city that don't realize what exists all around the city, so close to where they are. And many of them do, but still, I believe there's a big market of people that come here that don't realize, 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away, you can be in, God's country.
Yeah.
Beautiful outdoor area, complete opposite of the city that they're visiting, or is right there, and just have a completely different experience. So I think things like this, draw attention that is always necessary. If we're going to fight and save, the coastline and the different species that live around here, then we need people to love and appreciate it as much as we do. So I think, places like this or projects like this definitely bring that needed attention that is never enough, right? We can never share it enough with the rest of the world to come in and see, the beauty that we get to experience every day here. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or anything else you'd like to tell us about the project?
Yeah, I think, we're going through this process. Obviously, it's exciting. It's great to see this, again, national attention on our beautiful coastline. So in the scenario, as President McInnis said, that maybe this doesn't end up in the Ponchartrain Basin this time, it doesn't close the door on going through this process again. We will have the opportunity to reapply, if you will, and perhaps get a second NERR. The state of Florida has 3. Okay. So they're Florida. We're way better over here in Louisiana. So we can have 3, we can have 6. And I think, as you all said, like bringing people to see the uniqueness that we have on our Louisiana coastline, we're very different than Florida. Florida was built, it's got coral reefs and that solid, hard bedrock. We don't have that in Louisiana. Why? Because we're built on an alluvial floodplain. This is a great chance to tell that story to the rest of the country, how the state was built, how it got into this situation, and why we're so valuable to the rest of the country. People love to eat shrimp. I was just actually up in North Carolina this past weekend. We go to a restaurant and I see shrimp and grits on the menu. I was not on the coastline of North Carolina. I was deep in the mountains. I was like, I can almost guarantee these shrimp came from Louisiana. People don't really appreciate what we have here and where they're getting their shrimp. People turn on their gas stoves at night. That's coming from Louisiana. So, that chance to tell that story, the value that we bring to the rest of the country, and then the beauty that we have to offer here, again, with our swamps and our marine life and the wildlife that exists out there. I think it's just a great thing. So whether it's in Barataria or Atchafalaya, but obviously we hope it's in the Ponchartrain Basin. If it's chosen somewhere else, it doesn't close the door for us to go back and ask to get another one here.
What's the timeline for the rest of this process? Do y'all have any idea on, when a selection will be made or when you'll move forward to the next step of this process?
So I will give you the best answer that I have from what I understand working with Sea Grant. We actually have a proposal due this week for what they are calling our Phase 2 proposal. So again, I've been working with a lot of the entities all around the state, including Nunez, to put together a proposal for the Ponchartrain Basin in this Phase 2. That is due this week. Following that submittal, NOAA is going to put out some town halls. So NOAA really wants to hear from the communities where these proposed sites are and what they want to get out of it. So they will be planning a town hall somewhere in the Ponchartrain Basin, I don't know where, somewhere in the Barataria and somewhere in the Atchafalaya. That's going to happen this fall So sometime in third quarter, there will be a town hall. And obviously, we will push that information out and make sure you all know about it so you can come. Everybody in St. Bernard Parish should come and just, again, try to champion getting this in the Ponchartrain Basin. And then by the end of 2021, our final package is due for what is the Phase 3 proposal. Sea Grant will go through those proposals from each of the basins. They will choose themselves which one to submit to the feds in January of 2022. So throughout, for the next 6 months, we're going to be typing away and submitting proposals and attending town halls and starting Facebook groups to really try to rally Sea Grant to choose the Ponchartrain Basin. But they will make that selection at the end of this year.
And is there funding that comes from NOAA to build out this project or the site once it is selected?
Yes, and that I'm glad you asked that question. So, so the state will submit their site selection by the end of this year. NOAA will then embark on a 2-year process of just reviewing Louisiana's chosen site to make sure it meets their criteria. Excuse me. So then Louisiana should hear perhaps 2023, 2024, if and when we get a NERR. Once that happens, we are then in the system with the other 28 sites. The federal government sets aside one chunk of money and they divide it evenly amongst the currently 28 sites. Right now, that's about $800,000 a year that goes into each NERR. That money is to be used for research and for outreach. There will be a one-time component of capital money to build a facility or facilities. That's separate and apart from the annual, it's almost an entitlement, if you will. And that amount, again, it's approximately $800,000 a year now. That changes just based on the federal budget each year. But the interesting thing is there's no real incentive to have a larger site versus a smaller site. As I mentioned, in Hawaii, their site is 1,500 acres. They get $800,000 a year. Alaska has 300,000 acres. They also get $800,000 a year. So you have the smallest and the largest. They get equal amounts of money to monitor that entire site. So, it's just this tricky game of how big do we want this to be? Of course, we think the whole entire estuary should be in there, but you're not really incentivized to make it bigger because everybody gets the same amount of money.
We certainly appreciate y'all championing this for us. We, of course, want to help in any way possible, and we'll definitely push, in the coming months for the citizens to get involved and to, kind of push with us that, this Ponchartrain Basin is a wonderful candidate for this reserve to come here. President McInnis, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just, John Lane, our Executive Director of Coastal Operations here in St. Bernard Parish, does a great job, along with our consultants, Jerry Graves and George Ricks. And our council has been so supportive of everything that we do. So in St. Bernard Parish, we want to be connected. We want to be connected to the city. We want to be connected to the Ponchartrain Basin. Because if we don't, we get left out or we get run over, right? And that's happened in the past for us. So we're connected. We want to stay focused on the things that we agree on and the positives that we can connect with all of our region. And it's working for us, Kerri. Things are starting to happen. So this is another great thing for our area, another great thing for St. Bernard Parish. And Kristi, thank you so much. If you need anything as far as resources to make this happen, let us know. Thank you, Kerri, for doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you both.